In the previous two videos, I covered recommended roles and my strategy for arranging a team comp which utilizes character synergies as well as the importance of utilizing elemental resonance when possible. Along with this process, it is important to understand that weapons and artifacts will make or break a character's ability to perform the role that you've selected for them. Not only that, but weapons and artifacts almost always work in tandem with one another. So let's dive into this final build instruction video, beginning with weapon selection. Your available weapons will dictate what roles are available to the characters in your roster. Without a proper weapon, reflective of the role you want a given character to fill, the character will underperform in that role, leaving them a lackluster shell of what they could be. Weapons with attack, physical damage, critical rate, and critical damage as their primary stat will enable a character to fulfill a primary or secondary DPS or damage dealer role, whereas weapons with energy recharge and elemental mastery are often intended to enable a character to fill a supportive role. Additionally, each of these main stats should help illuminate the path that you should take in choosing the main stats and substats of your artifacts. This is especially true with regard to your circlet slot, as it will be the key artifact for securing a stable value of approximately 50% crit rate, or capitalization of the crit rate that you've already stabilized across your artifact substats. To further clarify my meaning, your circlet should have crit rate if you have a weapon with attack, physical damage, or critical damage, unless you already have 50% or better critical rate. If you have a crit rate weapon, you should be able to more easily achieve that 50% crit rate, allowing you to use a crit damage circlet, which will make better use of the crit stability that you've achieved. Circlets have been arranged at the top of these charts in order to reflect their significance to your build's overall effectiveness. In the timepiece slot, it is important to further increase the type of output your chosen unit will produce. With the primary and secondary DPS and DD roles, that means loading up on additional attack. Other options simply won't increase the damage output production of an attack type unit. Here it is important to note that with regard to Mona, her level 70 passive adds Hydro bonus damage, equal to 20% of her energy recharge. Mathematically, there is a point where, with high enough energy recharge, you should be able to utilize energy recharge in the timepiece slot instead of attack. However, through testing, I discovered that there appears to be either a cap or a point where diminished returns prevent that from actually being the case. So, the recommendation of using attack in this slot continues to ring true, even for Mona. For the goblet slot, you have several options which simply require you to consider which attacks will be used most by the character in question. Here, you can see the relationship of attack, physical damage, and elemental bonus damage will have on a unit's skill set. With this in mind, you can see that attack percent will set a character up with a more balanced build, evenly increasing all abilities. Physical damage bonus will only increase the damage production of normal and charged attacks of melee characters and archers, with an exception given to Xinyan, whose elemental burst does in fact deal a portion of her output as physical damage. Physical damage will increase the output of all of these abilities by an amount greater than that which would be gained by increasing attack. Lastly, elemental bonus will increase the damage of all skills or attacks which increase the damage of a character's respective elemental type. In the case of catalyst users, it will increase every ability in their kit. For archers, it will improve the damage of all abilities except normal attacks. And for melee characters, it will only increase the damage of elemental skills, bursts, and some occasional passive add-ons. So, as I've mentioned, considering which of those abilities will be the primary damage producer for a given unit will be crucial to deciding which you want to use. For catalyst users, there's almost never a reason not to use a goblet with their respective elemental damage bonus. For a character utilizing a physical damage weapon, you should lean further into that and utilize a physical damage goblet. Lastly, for a character upon which you'd like to evenly utilize their entire kit, use an attack percent goblet. This combination will increase the damage of normal attacks, as well as elemental skills and bursts evenly, and is usually most effective with characters who have 40 energy cost elemental bursts, as they frequently regenerate in heavy combat before the cooldown has elapsed. For support characters, this process is a bit simpler. You have two weapon options, elemental mastery or energy recharge. It is worth noting, however, that with regard to 5-star weapons with energy recharge, you may be able to put those weapons to use on DPS or damage dealer type units as a result of their superior attack scaling compared to that of 4-star weapons. You will want at least one instance of energy recharge on all support damage units focused on Elemental Mastery, where the rest of those stats should be focused on Elemental Mastery itself. So if you take Energy Recharge on the weapon, you can take Goblets, Timepieces, and Circlets with Elemental Mastery. But if you've used a weapon with Elemental Mastery instead, you should maximize Elemental Mastery where able, but also take Energy Recharge for your Timepiece. For support characters focused on healing, you'll want to focus your artifact main stats towards whichever their main scaling factor for healing is. For instance, for Jean, that means taking a lot of attack. For her sister Barbara, however, that means taking a lot of HP. The last artifacts we have are the Plume and Flower. These do not have variable main stats, and as such, there is less depth provided from these particular pieces. In fact, the only options which change on these are the substats, so that is where you will want to focus your effort in these artifacts, which brings me to the next topic. For artifact substats, it's a good goal to attempt to get attack, crit rate, and crit damage on all artifacts, being mindful that an artifact with crit damage, attack, or crit rate as its main stat cannot get that again as a substat on the same artifact. This means that you have a bit more room for flexibility in taking substats such as attack flat, or a specific substat which contributes to that character's damage growth. For instance, taking Energy Recharge on Mona will increase her Hydro bonus damage. Defense on Albedo, or Xinyan, or HP on Zhongli will result in increased scaling of various aspects of their kits. It's always of the utmost importance when approaching the build of a character to first check their passive talents, to see if they have scaling factors like those I've just mentioned, to see which substats will be effective. In general, it's really difficult to get an artifact with perfect substats, so it's recommended to focus on getting at least crit damage and crit rate where possible on all artifacts for damage-focused characters. Then the focus can move on to attack percent or flat attack, as well as the character's corresponding scaling from passive talents. For support units, you'll still not be able to get the identical substats as that which is on the main stat on the piece already. Generally, a focus of attack, crit damage, rate, and energy recharge is recommended for support damage characters. It's worth noting here that swirl damage scales with elemental mastery, but cannot crit. As such, these substats will not increase the damage of swirl-generated reactions, but will increase the damage of the animo skill which triggered it. For healing type characters, again, the focus will be to help push the character's scaling for heals upwards. Take as much energy recharge as you can get, and I recommend getting it on all artifacts other than the timepiece, if the timepiece is already utilizing energy recharge as the main stat. Remember that if an artifact has attack percent, defense percent, or HP percent, the duplicate stat can still appear again as a flat stat, and in these instances will be an ideal substat to further increase heal scaling. Now that I've finished discussing how weapons impact the main stat and substats that you should utilize, we'll move on to how you should go about selecting proper 5-star artifact sets. In order to properly explain this process, I've created this chart showing the available 5-star artifact sets, along with brief descriptions of what their primary effect is. This chart and all other graphics utilized in this video will be available as of today in the Teyvat Historia Discord. As with the other charts, please feel free to share them with other players if you found it useful for helping you to make build decisions. Each artifact set has a corresponding box, divided into 4 sections, one for each of the 4 main roles a character can fill in Genshin Impact. The yellow 2 or 4 next to the role will indicate whether you should utilize the 2 or 4 piece set. If it has both the 2 and the 4, it means there are circumstances or team compositions where you could take either a 2-piece set bonus in conjunction with another 2-piece set bonus from a different set, or take the entire 4-piece bonus. Since it is impossible for me to discuss every possible combination of characters and artifacts, in order to fully explore these options, I'll be returning to the examples established in my previous 2 videos, that of my Team 1 with Mona, and Team 2 with Zhongli. Having discussed in the previous 2 videos that Mona and Zhongli are my primary DPS units, we can now explore the artifact options available for them, starting with Zhongli's team, as it will be a little bit simpler. At the heart of that team, the primary DPS is a Geo unit, so initially it would seem like a good idea to look at Archaic Petra, but as the increased Geo bonus will not improve Zhongli's normal attacks, this is not a great option. This means we need to look at sets which will improve the output of physical damage, or normal and charged attacks in general. This will include Gladiator's Finale, Bloodstained Chivalry, and Retracing Bolide. Since I've selected a primary DPS and secondary DPS who make shields, as well as a supportive off-screen damage producer capable of generating additional elemental shields, the highest bonus to normal and charged attacks available would be Retracing Bolide, as it improves the output of both normal and charged attacks by 40% when you're protected by a shield, as well as improving the strength of those shields by 35%. That is particularly important, seeing as how the team does not have a healer, and those shields will be crucial to ensure that the teams do not experience significant loss of HP on a regular basis. But also, the increased shield strength helps to ensure that the shields persist until a new shield is generated, meaning the 40% bonus to normals and charged attacks persists continuously. If the team had only one shield producer, and had a healer instead, it may be better to rely on a set like Gladiator 4-piece bonus, or Bloodstained Chivalry 2-piece in a combination with Gladiator's 2-piece to provide stable output. But since this team can make shields from 3 of its 4 units, Bolide is the ideal choice. This also applies to not just Zhongli, but also Xinyan. She, like Zhongli, creates a shield herself when utilizing her main elemental skill. When considering these two characters' weapon options, it becomes clear that if you have 5-star weapons, such as Vortex Vanquisher or the Unforged, they will perform to their maximum potential in a party built around characters such as these, when using that set bonus. Next, moving on to Albedo, his role in the party is to provide off-screen damage, utilizing his Solar Isotoma ability, which deals geo damage. This ability's main cast will deal increased damage if utilizing Archaic Petra 2-piece bonus, but also will increase the damage of the passive as well. Additionally, Albedo's Elemental Burst is on a low 40-second cost requirement, so it is likely that it will be usable frequently, so taking a 2-piece bonus which will improve the output of this is a good idea. This can be achieved by taking either 2-piece Noblesse Oblige or 2-piece Gladiator's Finale. Since Gladiator's Finale will also improve the damage of Solar Isotoma's main cast, which is usable every 4 seconds, I've chosen to further improve the damage production across the board instead of taking a 2-piece bonus, which will only improve the damage of elemental bursts, and even then only by a modest amount over that which is produced by the 2-piece Gladiator set anyways. As discussed before, considering the unit's usage is always important, and since Albedo's most potent effect is his off-screen damage potential, focusing on defense, where able, in both his main stats and substats, will significantly increase the damage of this ability. The last member of my Zhongli party is Fishel. Her role is that of a secondary DPS and off-screen damage producer by utilizing Oz. With high constellation levels, this effect will be improved dramatically by improving her attack. Oz's attacks are all electro in nature as well, so it quickly becomes apparent that the best options for this would be 2-piece Thundering Fury and 2-piece Gladiator. Moving on to my Mona party now, and still utilizing this chart, Heart of Depth is the only set that improves hydro damage overall. And while you could build Mona as a stable hybrid utilizing both 2-piece Heart of Depth and 2-piece Gladiator, her role in my party is that of a primary DPS, which should focus on normal and charged attacks. Utilizing 4-piece Heart of Depth will significantly improve those attacks, and better solidify her placement within that role. Secondary DPS in this party is Klee. She was chosen to counter the weaknesses of Mona's kit. With that said, secondary DPS pyro options are Crimson Witch of Flames and Lava Walker. More often than not, Klee will not be on screen long enough to really have frequent opportunities to utilize the max effect provided by a 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames set, but she will, after an initial strike, continuously gain the full benefit of the 4-piece Lava Walker set. Since 100% of her damage is pyro in nature, the set will work perfectly for her in the role for which she is intended. On to Deluxe. There are a couple of ways he can be built to extract ideal effectiveness. My long-term goal, though, will be to see Deluxe serve the role of a damage dealer, able to produce both solid pyro damage with or without reactions present. In order to best achieve this, we could go with 2-piece Crimson Witch of Flames and 2-piece Noblesse Oblige, or 4-piece Crimson Witch. Since Deluxe is really the only pyro character currently, which can quickly max out the stat counter for Crimson Witch 4-piece bonus easily, it seems a waste not to let him utilize that set and unlock his greatest potential. While I've not yet personally had the opportunity to complete this build for Deluxe as of the time I'm writing this, it is very much my plan for building Deluxe in the long term. Additionally, similarly to how Xinyan in my Zhongli party utilizes the Unforged due to the unique nature of the weapon skill when paired with a shield party, when choosing a weapon for a Claymore character like Deluxe, don't underestimate the benefits, which can be gained by utilizing a weapon such as Wolf's Gravestone if you have access to it. This allows Deluxe to not only function as a damage dealer and pyro producer, but also as a buffer. When these opportunities present themselves to allow a character to maximize their role as a DPS or damage dealer, as well as to increase the output of the party as a whole, you should often take it and run. Lastly, we move on to Jean. She was, as mentioned in the previous video, chosen as the healer of this team due to the fact that she provides large-scale, instantaneous healing to everyone in the party, and has a laundry list of mage synergistic benefits. Jean provides healing on half of her normal attacks while also dealing damage. It makes sense then to utilize the 18% attack bonus granted by Gladiator's finale to fully make use of that option and scale her healing upwards simultaneously. Utilizing a set such as 4-piece Viridescent Venerer will turn her into a debuffer as well as a healer, but it will reduce the effectiveness of her heals overall compared to that of utilizing 2-piece Gladiator. For that reason, I've chosen to work on building Jean as a proper healer for the time being, utilizing 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Maiden Beloved. This allows her to maximize her attack stat while also picking up a healthy bonus to her healing. The option, however, to use her as a debuffer, increasing damage output on all enemies, is certainly compelling, and is more than a viable option as well. Now that I've completely discussed the formation of both parties, and explained how to use the charts provided, remember that most all of the charts and graphics in this video series are available over on the Teyvat Historia Discord. The intent of these charts is to allow you to objectively approach a team concept, and give you quick reference tools to help you decide which options you have to most effectively build that team. This includes a chart to explain the use and impact of each reaction type to improve your knowledge of those mechanics. With that understanding, you can then use the roles chart to decide which characters out of those available to you will help you best utilize your chosen set of reactions. From there, you can use the elemental resonance chart as a quick reference to decide which, if any, resonance will fit in with what it is that you're trying to do, and show you at a glance what other characters are available in each element to help you decide if you want to modify your party to obtain one of them. Lastly, use the artifact builds, roles, and weapons chart to determine what options you have quickly for a character, and then, keeping in mind any scaling factors from passive talents, decide which stats will be best to focus on as you farm for artifacts based on the weapons you've chosen for a character. This concludes the final installment of this series. I hope it's given you all a firm grasp of how to approach not just building one specific character, but rather how to approach building all characters, as well as how to plan out a proper synergistic team composition, which will allow you to clear the vast majority of content the game throws at you. If you did find this video useful, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you're notified when my next video goes live. If you missed the first or second portion of this video, where I discussed the roles which exist in Genshin Impact, as well as the elemental factors which will help you build an effective team, you will find it displayed in the end card of this video. Thanks for watching Teyvat Historia. May the 7 guide you, travelers.